Thank you for Patreon now for donating to the Patreon.
Hey guys, Vandy, I'm back on Card Fight Vanguard deck profile. Don't like, conscribe, just one start, shall we? This time we are covering Dark States Kheios. For the record, this is not the most optimal build for Kheios. If you want a more optimum build, then you should click off this video immediately. But if you just want to build for fun or someone else's view on Kheios, go ahead and keep watching this video. So Kheios, as we all know, was that deck that has a bunch of different card names in Soul, and the deck that everyone just plays one-ofs of everything in that isn't Peltresha Highlander. Me, how I play Kheios is run everything like I normally would, because I know I'm gonna have 13 different card names in Soul altogether, because I know how my deck works and I know how it likes me or doesn't like me. My issue with Kheios was never the Soul thing. I think my issue was just, you know, having hand card issues, and frankly, they have yet to fix that. But they have made it easier for people to get different card names in Soul, so hopefully people can start playing decks that just trigger me to look at, because great god, I hate seeing one-ofs. So let's go and get this started, shall we? First up, we have one with Profound Mercy, Kheios. My favorite starter to play whenever I'm feeling just edgy. Grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 6k base. Auto when it's rolled upon, if you win second, draw a card. Standard starter, not special about it, it's just if you win second, you draw. It really has that I am a bad guy. I'm that guy at the end of the game who's going to be astronomically harder than everything else, and boss music is going to play. That's why I like playing this guy as my starter. Whenever I just feel angry or like I just want to be an asshole, I kind of just play this deck, or just any deck that has it as my starter, just to prove a point. So yeah, all around, nice starter. He is my favorite in terms of art of all of Dark States, so yeah, why not make him the starter here, even though he's not really required. Then we have our Overtrigger and Hades Dragon Deity of Resentment Gale Mage Held. Grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k power. Overtrigger, you mill one Overtrigger in your deck. Reveals a trigger with that card, draw a card, choose one to make this possible move of the turn, and you reveal it during your draft check, activate its effect, which is you get during your turn, all your vanguards get plus 10k and a crit for the fight. Okay, I think we all know the Dark States Overtrigger as if you sack this, you are probably going to win if you've sacked it aggressively early enough. Like, Eldo Breath, it's not a confirmed win the turn you sack it if your opponent, like, is prepared for it, or if you just didn't, like, or like if it was early enough, you probably didn't do anything with it. But yeah, Gale Mage Held, it's kind of that one where if you sack it early, it's kind of game, unless your opponent plays around it really well, because that means your Vanguard's a constant block target, which granted it already is, but now you can't really afford to take chances on the Vanguard like you could before, because it has double crit. So it's fun to run Gale Mage Held. You can really make this either the two overs. I mean, there's two different overs. There's this one and there's like the World English one. I just chose this one because this is the one that I always go with, and if I was playing Favnir right now, then it would be the other one, because the other one's name fits Favnir. So all around, it's a nice over having that extra buff if you drive checked it, but you know, if you damage checked it, free 1 million in a draw and your opponent can't touch you for the rest of the turn. So yeah, let's go for it. And it's also a different name because one-ofs. Then we have our normal triggers. First up, we run 3 copies of Fenty Slasher, grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k power. Normal crit, nothing special about it, because we also run 4 more crits in Steam Deviate Dragon, the effect crit, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k power. You would be surprised with the one, like, not the one time, but the amount of times that fucked me in one of those games was a game I really wanted to win, so I have a grudge against these cards now. Auto rear at the end of the battle that it boosted, put it to soul, choose one because it 2 for the turn. Okay. This is essentially, if you are missing that 13th different soul, call this to rear. If you aren't, there is no reason to have this in your deck, because arguably that 4k genuinely makes this thing worse. I kid you not. There's been, well, not games that, there hasn't been so many games I've lost off this, but there's definitely been a good amount where I have lost, and like I said, there was a game I really wanted to win, and this made the difference, because if it had 1k more, I would have actually fucking won, but nah, fuck this card. So, you know, we run 7 crits in total, and then we run 4 draws and rouse with Master Ridley, because we all can agree Kheios has a hand problem, and if your Kheios deck doesn't have a hand problem, I'd be damned, because that's every other Kheios deck I see being played on the internet. It just has hand problems. Good to boost, 5k shield, 4k base, draw against guard soak, if opponent's Vanguards are great, 3 gives plus 5k shield. So, you know, 10k shield, really nice. Believe it or not, that is not actually helpful at all. That has never been useful. The draw has, but the skill itself has never been fucking useful in this deck for me. So, yeah, 4 of Riley. She's nice to have because she increases hand cards, but that's all I can pretty much say about her. And then we have our 4 heals in Steam Scar on Mail in HL, because we all know I don't like any of the other heals from fucking, what's it called, Dark States, for some reason. Girds of boost, 50k shield, 5k power. Yeah, we all know why it's the normal heal. If you don't know why it's the normal heal, because it has been a while. The other heals are just kind of like, you know, situational, where they only have that 10k shield, and if your opponent doesn't, like, attack with someone with an extra critical, or they don't attack with a restanded unit, then in that case, those heals are only 10k drops, and I can think of so many games where those would have fucked me. Even in the games where those would have been useful, I still would have lost just a turn later because of like the amount I would still have to drop. So I don't like those heals. If you want to run them, go ahead, but I don't run them. I also don't play competitive, which is my only logical reason for seeing you run them. So if, in my mind, since I don't play competitive, I don't run those things at all. So 4 of heal. I mean, you don't have to play competitive to run those. I just feel like that's the only genuine reason you would run them. Then move on to our grade 1s. First up, we have 2 copies of Brainwash Swirler. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. Auto when it's placed on rear, soul charge 1, and then auto rear when your card's put into your soul by soul charge, not by put into your soul effects. If your vanguards are grade 3 or greater, it gets plus 5k power, soul charge 2 equals plus 10. So that does stack, which is why some people run Pandemonium Tactics, and why I don't. But yeah, it's a good card nonetheless. I'm gonna get like so much hate from other Dark States players because I don't like this card. It's not that I have like bad memories with it. I just don't like it. I don't know why. What's wrong with me about this? I just don't like this card. Like, I run it in my decks that have soul charges. It's just that if you give me an option between like dropping this and keeping it in my hand for other things, I'm gonna like 95% of the time drop this. Not because I think it's smart, it's because I don't like it. Again, I don't know why. Don't ask me. Either way, it's a fine card. You know, being able to add a bunch of power. I do run it as like the lowest copy ever because again, I just don't like it. Yeah, take the shot every time I just said I don't like it in those last 4 seconds. But 2 of Brainwash. It's not a bad card. I would say if you want to tech this up to 3, go ahead. But 2 is enough because if you see it, it gets power. And also in this version of the deck, there's not a lot of like actual soul charge skills. So I don't really need them that much in this deck. Then we have 4 copies of, hands down, the best card in this deck. I don't want to hear any arguments from anyone because we all know this is the best card in the deck. Go ahead, Mikani. For once, Discord was better because Discord had the name Breakthrough Mikani. I think Breakthrough is a much better name than Go Ahead. But anyways, grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. Auto when it's placed on your rear guard, you may soul charge 1. So, first off, for those of you wondering why you run this as a, 4 of in a Kheios deck that wants to have different names, go ahead, read the third skill as I get to it. But yeah, free soul charge. Sometimes, especially because the way I play this deck, I don't run a lot of extra soul chargers, so I tend to, not easy, it's a rare occasion I'll run into soul problems, but this has basically made it so I'm never going to run into a soul problem. Quite literally, that's just funny for me. And then act rear if you have a grade 3 or greater vanguard, regardless of who it actually is. So for all you care, you can be on Barrow Magnus and this will still go off. Put this unit to your soul, choose a grade 3 with Mikani in its card name, and call it to rear guard. 1 doesn't specify a specific Mikani, so if we get a second one that happens to be a grade 3, or technically it would be a third Mikani that happens to be a grade 3, we can call it to rear. And again, you can be on any fucking unit to pull this off. And then Glitter Kheios, active if your Vanguard's a Kheios with Glitter. Continuous Soul, when your card's ability would count the number of cards with different card names in your soul, all of your go-ahead Mikanis in your soul are counted as having different card names. Meaning you can have all 4 of them, and a guy will count to 4 different soul. And if you count your ride line, that's 7 different soul. This card is the epitome of stupid. It gets you 4 free soul, automatic soul charge that you do not have to do because it's a May clause, so if you're afraid of decking out, just don't use the skill, and it fetches Mikani, which was my one main issue with the deck, where I would just either run out of counterblast trying to get that Mikani back out, or I just wouldn't be able to get a Mikani back out in general because maybe I just accidentally soul charged it early on. This card, perfect. This is hands down my favorite card in this deck. It's fucking amazing. 4 of Breakthrough Mikani. I'm calling it Breakthrough Mikani. Fuck, go ahead. Breakthrough Mikani is amazing. 4 of. Then we have 4 PGs and we're skill Hate Dragon. Grade 1 boost, 0 show 6k base, continuous unknown, 4 on the end deck, and on a guard circle. Choose your unit taken up in a battle, and if your hand is turn a card, card from hand, discard it. Standard PG, not special about it. It's just if you place it on guard circle and you have only 1 other card in your hand when you do that, or less, you don't have to discard. That's great because that means you can be as aggressive as you want in the early game and still have this on the defensive for the later game. And in Kheios, where your hand is always going to be an issue because you most likely have very little hand cards, this is your saving grace. Not gonna lie, it's really great. Unless you're me and your hand gets flooded with 3 of these right from the get-go, and that means you have to discard one of them for ride deck and or Kheios skill. Which sucks. But anyways, it's a good PG nonetheless, having the nullify ability. If you're wondering why I don't run the Blitz PG, it's because I don't like that. I have been in many times situations, not just this deck, just in general, where I've had to call PG to make sure I win for the sake of pressure. And yeah, you can't call an order to rear guard. Also, those cards only are better in the situation where your opponent attacks you with a unit that has the triple drive icon, not the triple drive ability. So yeah, I mean that in situations where your opponent nullifies Sentinels, but to my memory, there are very few cards that can nullify Sentinels. So yeah, I prefer Risk Skill Hate. If you want to run the Blitz PG, go ahead, but I really do not like having to take that chance, especially in the scenarios where I know I might need a unit. It's a rare chance, but still I like having that chance, or don't like having that chance. So 4 Physical Hey Dragon, it's a good PG. Then we have our last grade 1, and that's In the Calm Streets Kheios. Grade 1 boost by Kheios base. I love how he just has like such a heavenly background to him. I don't know why. Anyways, auto when he's rode upon by a quagmire of soulless Kheios, reveal the top 2, put all normies from element to your soul, and put the rest on the bottom deck in any order. In glitter, he searched the fire regalias. I swear, they need to make a set order that's a fucking fire regalia. I don't care what it does, it just needs to be generic. But either way, that's a good skill. Like getting either a free 2 soul charge or free bottom stack 2 or 1-in-1 all around's a nice skill to have because it does it straight up for free, and all you have to do is ride the specific grade 2. So it's a great skill. I do wish it like gave a little more, like if you put all, like if all units were either put to soul or to bottom, you get a draw. But it's still a good card nonetheless. I like it a lot, so I might as well make it the ride deck. I would put him in the main deck because he does have such a beautiful art in my opinion, but you know, him not having a rear guard skill kind of makes it so it's not worth it. I could justify it with the ride deck ones, or like from the trial decks. I can't do it here. Then we have our grade 2s. First up, we all know, hands down, my favorite grade 2 in all of Dark States. I have not tried to hide this. I've made it very clear at this point. And that is 2 copies of Selfish Engraver. Grade 2 NSF 5k shield, 10k base, auto rare when this attack hits, soul charge 1. And at the end of an auto rare at the end of the battle attacked into anything. If your soul has 10 or more cards, put the soul counter charge 1. Okay, reasons why I like this. 1, both of its skills, doesn't matter what the fuck it hits or swings into, it can do the skill. So even if it swung into a rear guard, free soul charge. Fuck it. Even if they made it a way for you to swing into your opponent's damage zone, it would still work if it let it hit, and it would get a soul charge, and you would get a counter charge out of it if you had 10 soul. That's really nice because this tends to be like the last soul I end up getting because, you know, on hit pressure and also being able to send itself to soul, which is great, which is why I only run it at 2 because I see it often enough anyways at 2 of, so might as well run it to get the counter charge, which on occasions can be a problem, and then also just on hit pressure. So, you know, good 2 of card. I just like to have it, and obviously I've made it clear that's my favorite grade 2 from Dark States. Also, I like the snake in the background because it has a moon. Then we have, honestly, probably the most competing card for my favorite grade 2 in the entire Dark State, which is Diverse Wild Master Onolato. Yeah. So anyways, or Onolatio. Grade 2 NSF 5k shield, 10k base. Continues rear guard during your turn if your soul has 8 or more cards with different card names. It gets boost and 5k power. And continues rear guard a guard circle if your soul has 8 or more different card names. It gets intercept from back row and gets plus 5k shield. So I like how that card is just useful during both players' turns. If you have 8 or more different soul, he becomes a 15k, 10k interceptor from back row with boost, which is fucking amazing. Wait, have I been boosting with this thing right? I think I may have been boosting with its AK. Okay, well, either way, it's an amazing grade 2 because it gets numbers, it gets defensive power, and it's very easy to hit 8 soul in this deck. Like, I'm telling you right now, when I said I don't build this deck to the most optimal ability, or like what I would consider optimal, I mean it, and even then, I don't struggle to hit the 13 different card names in soul. When you could probably, I'm not so sure about other people, but at least I know from the last time I saw it, people still ran like a bunch of different names. So you know that you might be overdoing it a little bit if I'm doing the bare minimum, and I'm somehow doing just as fine as they are. So, like, you know, don't go along with, like, everything people say. I'm not saying I'm in the right here, but I'm just saying, like, if people say that you have to run different names, I'm telling you right now, that's, or, like, more, like, everything at 1s or 2s, that's bullshit, because I'm not doing it, and I'm doing fine. So, anyways, it's a good skill nonetheless, being a 15k and 10k interceptor, so I like this card a lot. Definitely one of my favorite grade 2s, just to call down, because, you know, back row support, and it makes Kheios finally have a fucking booster, because I'd never call a booster behind Kheios for some reason. So, 3 of Onolatio. It has definitely been helpful, and I remember the one game I managed to win with Kheios, it was solely because this thing was in the back row and was a 10k shield. So, yeah, 3 of it deserves its worth. Then we have 4 copies of Indicate Arrow, grade 2 NSF 5k shield, 10k base, auto is placed on rear guard, village top card of your deck, and if your soul has no cards the same card name as every vehicle card, soul charge 1. You want to know how I get as much soul as I do? It's this card. Believe it or not, even though I don't run nearly as many different names as the rest of everyone else, somehow this is the thing that procs off the most in terms of soul charge. Maybe it's because I called 2 of them in the early game, but even then, even when I call them in the late game, this still seems to proc off really often. So, you know, like I said, don't believe if people say that you have to run different names or like a bunch of different names. That's a blatant fucking lie, because I tell you what, I'm not doing it and it's working just fine for me. So 4 Vindicate, it's a free soul charge. You know, its skill is kind of underwhelming because after it's on place, it's kind of useless, but that's what Breakthrough is for. You just call over it, or you just call it to back, or move it to back row and then just have it be useful there. So yeah, 4 of grade 2. It's not the best, but it's a free fucking soul charge that works on place, and you know, if it doesn't go to soul, it goes right back to top, so trigger stacking, let's go. 4 of Indicate. Then we have one copy of our last grade 2, and that's the grade 2 of the ride line. That is Quagmire of Soulless Kheios, or the card that my friend kind of has PTSD from. Not from this card, but this specifically gives him PTSD. You see, there's a certain thing that involves Thera and snakes that I made him hate. So we can ignore that for now. Anyways, Quagmire of Soulless, always rode upon by approaching Fangs, Kheios, best name in my game. Soul Charge 1, and in this unit, if the card Soul Charge was a trigger, you draw a card. If it's a normal unit, choose to one card from your soul, call it to rear guard. I didn't know it was up to. I mean, the best part was, too, I was about to say something like, I wish that skill was up to and not forced to call. Damn, reading is hard. Anyways, getting that draw is nice. I prefer the draw skill, especially, before when I thought that I had to call, I definitely preferred the draw skill. I still prefer the draw skill now. Fuck calling from soul, because I rarely got to be conning into soul before as I hit grade 3. So, one of this in the ride deck. You don't run in the main deck because it has no skills, but yeah, this is like the one card you want to see a trigger off soul charging, because in my opinion, calling from soul is kind of like not worth it unless you really do have duplicates. But like I say, I normally have one ofs in my souls, so you don't really need to worry about that. Then we have our grade 3s. 2 copies of Time Gyrate Dragon, or as I like to call it, card that shows up too fucking much for being a 2 of. Grade 3, 29 persona, 13k base. Auto is placed on rear guard, put a hand card to soul, draw a card. You know why this is here. This is like the easiest tech to soul ever. Like, hey, I'm at 12 soul, I'm missing one card. That one card happens to be in my hand. Time Gyrated in there. So, unless it's Time Gyrate himself. Hopefully you have 2 then. But all around, it's a good grade 3. Don't get me wrong, it's a free draw and soul. My issue with this is, why does this card show up so often? Literally every game I play with this deck, I will see both of them in my hand at some point. Unless one of them got soul charged by grade 2. So, like, I don't fucking know why this card is so into me, but it is. I mean, I don't hate it, I like it, but still. 2 of Time Gyrate. It's just a good grade 3 that gets you sold. There's nothing to hate about it. Then we have 4 copies of our main grade 3 that doesn't go on Vanguard, and that would be Cool-Headed Executioner Mikani, or Executor Mikani. Anyways, grade 3 to persona, 13k base, always placed on rear guard by counter blasting 1 and soul blasting 1. Choose an opponent's rear guard, same grade as the card name, or as the card soul blaster for your cost, and retire it. So, if you soul blast a grade 2, or counter blast 1 and soul blast a grade 2, then you kill an opponent's grade 2, you counter blast 1, soul blast a grade 3, kill an opponent's grade 3, etc. Funny thing is, whenever I have duplicates in soul, this tends to be like the shittiest time for when I call him, because those duplicates never are the grade of my opponent's board. Like, I'll either get duplicate triggers and they won't have grade 0s, or I'll either get duplicate grade 3s and they don't have grade 3s because I killed all their grade 3s last turn, or maybe they just chose not to call grade 3 to rear guard and they'll call one the next turn, or I have duplicate grade 2s and it's the one fucking time they don't have grade 2s on their board. I don't know, I feel like the timing of that skill just hates me, but whatever. And then Glitter Kheios, if you have a Vanguard Kheios in its card name. Auto rear once per turn when your Vanguard attacks, regardless of who it is, but technically it has to be a Kheios. If your soul has 8 or more different card names, which is easy in this deck, stand to this unit, and if you stand it, put it to soul at the end of your turn. So, it goes to soul at the end of the turn, which is why I hate that skill sometimes, because like if you didn't find a way to fetch it out, you kind of suck for you, and that was like the worst case scenario for me, because there was only one way to get it out of soul back in my old build. So yeah, that wasn't fun. But having the new Mikani kind of fixes that problem entirely, and being different named. So all around, this card is nice to have. Getting that restand, getting that multi attack, and I tell you what, once Kheios gets going, it gets going. Hell, if you can get to 13, like even this deck can still pull out 13 soul on first grade 3 turn. It's just less likely than other decks, but if you manage to get 13 soul on first grade 3 turn, this deck, I tell you what, is fucking deadly. 13 soul first grade 3 turn, at least one of these boys, your opponent's gonna have a hard time. And if you have 2 of them, I pray for them. And if you pulled the over 2, even if it was earlier, they are not walking away from this turn of life. I'm almost says that. So, for Mikani, it's great. It's one of the best restanders in the game, in my opinion, and it can get rid of rear guard with, Filter Soul. 4 of. Then we have our last unit in the deck, but not the last card, and that's 3 copies in the main deck, 1 copy of the right deck of Approaching Fangs Kheios, who I now have bias for, because my favorite character in Deer Days mains this deck. If you play Deer Days, you know who this character is, and we all know why I like him, because of a very certain hair loop. I am so happy I chose Moon as my thing for this. But anyways, grade 3 10%, 13k base. Activate once per turn. The skill I think everyone hates. Counterblast 1, discard 1. Look at top 3, choose 1 card from among them, put it to hand. Choose 1 from among them, call it to rear guard. You don't have to call it. You can just choose to put it to soul with the rest of the cards. So, you know, at most 2 are going into soul. At least 1 is going into soul. So, here's my thing with this skill. This is kind of a minus. Because we all know, like, okay, Counterblast 1, discard 1, just to add a card back, call something to rear, and put it to soul. That sounds like a plus. It's not. Because for all you know, the card you add to hand could be worse. I kid you not, half the time when I add a card to hand, it's a trigger, which I don't complain about because, you know, it gives me free guarding power. I'm just saying, like, it's a trigger. And then I get to call rear guard, and, you know, sometimes it's good, like a Mikani or this thing, but, you know, it's okay. And then the go to soul one, typically that's the one that ends up being a duplicate, sadly. But hey, it's still a good skill. But I find it funny how this is the skill people say we have a hand problem with. But whatever, you know, rear guard, hand card, soul card, it's decent. Then we have auto van when this unit attacks a vanguard. If your soul has 8 or more different card names, choose one of your rear guards. It gets plus 10 for the turn. If your soul has 13 or more different card names, which again is very easy to hit in this deck, just not as easy as other builds, because the other builds are built a little bit more consistently towards that reason. You choose all rear guards instead. So again, if you're going first, and they're at grade 2, and you're at grade 3, and you have 13 or more soul, and you have 2 of these fuckers, then that means that's a plus 10k to your entire board, with 2 of those being restanders. This card is fun to play. If you can get that 13 soul quickly, I really do feel bad for your opponent because they're not going to have an easy time with this, or a fun time for that matter. This is an amazing grade 3. Adding numbers, getting board consistency, adding stuff to hand. What's not to like about it? I also like its art. Again, PTSD for my friend from the whole snakes thing. But yeah, 3 of them in the main deck, 1 of them in the red deck. I am glad this is my favorite character who uses this deck. It's fun playing with him in Deer Days. That's honestly the only reason I play Deer Days, is to see him. So yeah, it's a good card. Adds numbers and gets bored. Cool. And then our last card for the deck is 2 copies of this card, Supernatural Extraction, grade 3, normal orders, play it by counterblasting 1, discarding 1, soul charge 3, then if your soul has 10 or more cards, choose a card from your soul, put it to hand. Okay, 1, it's a maze, so you don't have to put something in hand. Here's the reason why I don't run 2 other orders. I don't run Pandemonium because, as we all know, if you've been through my channel long enough, then and if you don't, then here's your PSA now. I hate running cards that I cannot use the full ability of with a burning passion. And because you cannot enter Final Rush in this deck, running Pandemonium Tactics in here would trigger me so incredibly. More than like running everything as a one-of would trigger me. I hate doing that with a passion. And it's not just this deck, it's every deck. If I can't use a card to its full power, I fucking will not run it. It's the worst. I hate that feeling so much. And then if you're wondering why I don't run the regular piece, I just don't like it. There's only 2 decks or 3 decks that I feel like it would be okay running it in. And, you know, one of them doesn't need it. One of them, it doesn't really benefit outside of numbers. And then the other one feels like that's the one I would run it in because it feels just deserved, and if you know which one I'm talking about, then there you go. But yeah, I'm not saying this deck doesn't need the regular piece, but I'm not saying like it needs it either. It definitely doesn't need it. If you want it, run it, but you definitely don't need it. So I prefer this one, you know, getting a free soul charge 3 and possibly a card back to hand. All around is nice to have, and it's my way of bouncing Mikani back, so 2 Supernatural Extraction. And that's it for the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. All around, this deck for me is fun to play. I like having the snake theme behind it. I do like their art, except for this one. I don't know why, but the snake kind of brings it back, so fair enough. It's just a fun deck to play. You get numbers, you get restands for easy, and it's not a Vanguard restand for once. It's a rear guard restand that doesn't involve the Vanguard outside of the name. And not to mention, I just love Kheios' first skill. I don't know why I like this skill. I think it's just because like it does everything. Like it goes to soul, goes to hand, goes to board. I just like that skill. It's just amazing to me. So yeah, without further ado, I'm gonna end it here. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join Discord, follow Twitch, and I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to stand up your Vanguards.